to another episode of The Little Radio Show. My name is Sandra Fernandez, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Juan Alanis and Angelica Casares, and we're bringing you small talk about big topics. This week, we bring you a recap, our very, very enthusiastic recap of the Hispanicize event in Miami. Yes, that's the only topic this week, so if you think you're not interested, I beg you to just listen. We'll make you a believer in the event. Just a reminder that you can catch us every week on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Time on hmsnetradio.org. Our show archives and the link to our iTunes and Stitcher channels are available at thelittleradioshow.com. Now, this is my shameless self-promotion moment. Please refer a friend to the show. Most of the people who are new listeners to the show have been referred to a friend, and we thank you very much. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Little Radio Show. My name is Sandra, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Juan and Angelica. Say hi.
Hello, thank you for joining us.
So we are here today, and even though this is actually going to run a couple of weeks after it's happened, we are all afire, having just come back from the Hispanicize conference in Miami. You can't see our tans, but let me tell you, we actually did spend some time in the sun.
We are on fire and very tired. Both equally very important.
And we wanted to dedicate this episode of the Little Radio Show to talk about specifically all things Hispanicize and all of the great things that we saw and that we learned and that we just kind of observed while we were there.
So for those who don't know, Hispanicize happens in Miami at the beginning, the first week of April.
Okay, so you're not hearing us mispronounce the word. The word is Hispanicize. Hispanicize. And if you look that up, it'll take you to the website with the event. This year, it was the 7th annual conference. It is the largest Hispanic marketing conference in the country. I believe that's the case. It is the biggest, or one of the biggest, groups that you're going to see in one place of Latino social media influencers and bloggers, brand representatives, PR and marketing professionals, and other people who have come to either teach, learn, or connect with those groups. It is so much fun. Think Disneyland for adults if you happen to be a geek like me. It's not quite South by Southwest, but I am sure it's going to get there soon.
It definitely is getting there. And one of the things that Manny Ruiz, who's the founder of Hispanicize, actually said to me, was like, it's an event. It's not necessarily a conference.
I was going to say the same thing, because I did hear Sandra say conference, and I was like, I don't know how that's going to work. But he likes to call it an event. It is an event because it is much more than just a conference.
Yeah, they have different tracks. They have a music track, they have a film track, and they have, the sort of interactive track, which is what we were most involved with.
Yes.
But it really was everything from digital social influencers, and just to kind of give you an idea of, the who's who of who was there. I mean, there were celebrities like people from Telemundo, Adamari Lopez, hasta Chiquinquira Delgada from Univision was there.
Rosario Dawson.
Right.
A couple of the big names from some of the networks were there, like, I forget his name, but the guy the president, the CEO of Tyler Perry Films was also there.
Right, and they also had people like Elvis Crespo and Mafio, and then on the social side, they had like some big names like Lele Pons.
Oh my God, I completely geeked out when I saw her. Last year, Time Magazine picked her as one of the most influential teenagers in the country. I mean, we're talking...
She's huge.
Yes, she is absolutely huge and so nice.
Yes.
The number one, if you don't know who Lele Pons is, let me tell you, she is the number one Viner on Vine. If you don't know what Vine is, it's a social platform. Overall, yes. This outbeats everyone and anyone in any general mainstream. Yes.
Yeah. And David Lopez was there, who's also a huge Viner on Vine as well.
Yes, and comedy.
Right, and then there were several other people that, some long
reality changers, and
Crafty Chica was there, who's huge.
I think the one that I geeked over was actually who Juan doesn't know, and Sandra, who didn't know who she was,
but she came.
Mexico. Yes, yes. So her name is
España.
Her name is Hispania, and she does this thing where she goes around Backpacking. Yeah, she calls it autostop, which is basically backpacking throughout some areas. The last one she did was in Mexico, I think Lower Mexico. And I geeked out when I seen her. I was like, I cannot believe she's here. She was there with with You Now, which is a new platform. It's a live video type of thing. And I seen her and I was like, there's no way. Is that her? And I chased her around during the DMIS Summit.
She didn't actually physically chase her. She sort of lurked after her.
Yeah, well, no, once I did chase her because she was in one of the, she was in the same one.
She did because she ran out there and she was like, I was looking for her.
I did, but I lost her. And I wasn't going to run after her into the restroom. So I was like, no, that's probably too much. But I geeked out. I finally seen her and she appeared and I looked at her. I was like, Juan, I'll be back. And I got the gusto and I walked over and I said, España? And she said, yes. I was like, I love your auto stops. we embraced and that was the one. That was the one for me. I was like, this made my Miami trip.
But aside from just the influencers and the celebrities and the celebrity influencers, there were also some of the biggest brands in the country, or some of the most well-known brands in the country that were there. You know, really, and they've been. You know, every year you see all these brands that come in and they're supporting and
Correct.
They're doing just.
I think one of their biggest supporters this year was Prudential.
Right,
yes.
But they're always having like really like good activations where they're just talking to people and they really come to make connections, and so. When you walk away from Hispanicize, it really is such a huge networking event that you walk away with a lot of different connections. And I think that's really been the draw for the event for the last 7 years, I think. And specifically for us, you know, that's really one of the big things that we go for.
Well, here's the thing. It stands to say that we at least get to know what's happening in our Hispanic community. We know what is kind of sort of the way things are gearing towards and what's really happening in our Hispanic community based on the Hispanicize events.
Actually, the draw for me is that I actually get to hear about trends and what's working and what isn't working in marketing and technology. Like You Now, that's a network I hadn't heard about yet, and seeing it being demoed there in real life.
That was very cool.
That was very cool. I also didn't know about some of the networks that are done specifically for children influencers, for video sharing and networking with children. And I attended one or two events that was specifically geared towards getting kids started in social media. And it was really very interesting to hear about the safeguards that they do and how it comes down to humans going in and taking a look and making sure that kids aren't, in fact, not sharing content that they're not supposed to on these networks.
Yes.
So these are some of the things. It's really interesting to hear from people who are making their living on Vine and YouTube and even on blogging. What isn't working. It's interesting to hear from brands who are actively marketing to Hispanics in English and Spanish. What is and isn't working and why.
Yeah, I think we are very done past the fact that you need to market to the Hispanic community. The brands understand this now. Now, here's the big difference between the general market and the Hispanic market. What is working for the general market might not be working for the Hispanic market. And I think they're starting to realize this. I think they're starting to understand this.
Well, one of my favorite sessions was the new manager of Dermablend brand was talking about how she is working inside, I think it's L'Oreal that owns Dermablend, inside her company, to making sure that there's someone in all of these different committees and departments who's actually speaking on behalf of multiculturalism every time a project comes up. And to talk about so that it's not in a silo, they're not working in a silo, but they're actually bringing that topic to multi-projects so that it's represented.
We were in a panel and the girl was saying something in regard, this is not word by word, please don't quote me, but she said something about everyone who works at this company is a multicultural.
That was Kimberly Clark.
Okay.
Kimberly Clark was talking about that, and specifically, she's a Latina who's of Puerto Rican descent who's now
not
Kimberly Clark,
the representative.
The representative,
yeah. The representative, yes. She's there now, and she's been there for a couple of years, and she's really leading the diversity efforts, and she was just talking about the entire philosophy and how she's kind of bringing that on board. But we would... I don't want to finish talking about this topic without saying that we were also part of the panel. We were actually speakers. Sandra and myself were
along with Melanie Mendez-Gonzalez and Marisa Rodriguez.
Melanie Mendez of Que Means What and Marisa Rodriguez of Modern Tejana. And
who has been on the show before.
Who's been on the show. And our moderator was Marcos Orozco And so we had a panel, and it was tapping into the booming influence of Texas Latinos. And
in retrospect, if you don't know why this is so important, Texas is so important, is that Geospace, who was there at Hispanicize, also mentioned that Houston itself is the biggest Hispanic market that keeps growing and growing and growing. Why it's so important? Because a lot of influence is coming directly out from Houston. I don't care what you say, it does. It does.
One of the biggest challenges that Latinos in Texas have is the fact that media, mainstream media tends to focus on Latinos on the coast, Miami, New York, Los Angeles, but that also happens in Hispanic media because their media outlets are located in the same location. So if you watch TV, if you listen, if you do anything about movies or whatever, you come across with the idea that Latinos only live in Los Angeles, Miami, New York, or maybe a couple other places. The reality is that 1/5 of all Hispanics in the country live in Texas. That's 1 in 5 of every Hispanic man, woman, and child.
That's huge.
It lives in Texas. That's extremely big. So, and the fact that Texas, according to the Census Bureau, keeps growing in population, not just in mainstream, but in Hispanic population, we're leading the country in overall population growth, but also in growth of Hispanic markets, both native-born and international. So the market is extremely important, and we keep getting overlooked. Not just in importance, but brands aren't marketing correctly in this.
They're not,
But a good sign of what's to come is that all the Tejanos that were at Hispanicize this year.
Oh my God, yes.
There were so many.
Now,
we went to represent. Yes, we did.
At last year's conference. I'm going to tell you that I was very, very impressed with the sheer number of Texans, of Tejanos that went this year versus last year.
And we went in 2003 and 2013, and I think we were, probably a handful of the ones that were there. And so this year when we came back and we saw so many people and a lot of people from Houston, we were very happy.
They were very happy about being from Texas. They were, when we talked about...
I'm a Texas Latina, they would say.
Yes. When we talked about, hey, who's Texas and Houston, people were just like, woo! So when Lizzie Velasquez came on, she's a Texas girl. She's from Austin. And she came on, we were like, ah!
And the first thing she asked, who's
here
from Texas?
Yeah, and those hands just went flying up. We didn't care. We were Texas people. You know how much...
And speaking of Lizzie Velasquez, I think that's one of the we brought a few clips from Hispanicize that we were able to record while we were there, and I think that's one of the first clips that we want to introduce to you and share with you.
So this is a good opportunity, Juan. Why don't you share what the clip is?
Sure. So this is Lizzie Velasquez, and Lizzie Velasquez, if you're not aware, she's very huge online and social media, but she started her story kind of by turning controversy into a very positive, inspirational story of her own, and we've kind of been following her journey. Angelica and I actually saw her speak at South by Southwest a couple years ago, so when we saw her this year giving the Latino Vader speech at Hispanicize, which was one of the keynote speeches that were being given, and she was there with her family, with her parents.
All thanks to, of course, Prudential, but this is a clip.
Yeah.
When I was born, the doctors didn't know why I was so small. They couldn't tell my parents, your daughter has this, or this is what's wrong with her. Instead, they said, this is what she won't be able to do. And from that day, they told my parents that I would never be able to walk or talk or crawl or do all of these other things. They were so nervous that when I was born, they took a Polaroid picture of me and took it into my mom to show her the photo, because they thought she would be scared if she saw me in person first. She pushed the photo away and said, bring her to me right now. And from that moment, my parents took me home and they raised me to the best of their ability. And that was with love and faith and family and friends.
And there you have it, guys. That was Lizzie Velasquez. I'm so sorry I'm butchering her name. But how inspirational. Her message comes across. We absolutely love her. And on top of that, we absolutely love her parents. And we also want to quickly share a clip of her dad talking.
One of the most important parts also is that From the very first day that she was born, we were in love with her. And we thank God for her. And we both know that God sent her to us for a reason. And it was our job, it was our responsibility to love her, take care of her, regardless of what they might be diagnosing the rest of her life with.
You know, this, just to give you some vision into where this was in the conference, this was Thursday of the conference, and it was a 5-day event. And so by Thursday, everybody was kind of exhausted, everybody was kind of tired. And after Lizzie Velasquez spoke and her parents came up there, the energy in the room was just so much. Everybody was so excited. Everybody was so inspired.
You could feel the energy in the room change.
She's very inspirational.
Yeah, people were walking away without just tearing up, and she got she actually got a standing ovation. Her parents got a standing ovation. It was so inspiring. What I think they timed it perfect.
And my favorite thing that happened after this presentation, after this keynote, was that her parents, everybody in the room, all the parents in the room, all the moms and dads in the room who have kids of their own, ran up to Lizzie Velasquez's parents and were just hugging them and just giving them so much love. And I was like, man, we didn't see that reaction at South by Southwest because they weren't, this was a primarily Latino event, so all the Latino, it was just like it was like a big family, and everybody was just like, we just want to give you a hug and tell you great job on raising such a great daughter.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I also loved that portion and that part. But on the topic too of other people who were speaking, we mentioned earlier Lele Pons, and she actually had a few words to say herself. This is in regards. Do you want to go ahead and introduce?
This was basically, she was talking about the power of social media, because she was also one of the people who was interviewed, but she was talking about the power of social media and how she, as a Latina who's of Venezuelan descent, kind of wears that proudly, but also feels that social media is making her part of a global community.
And I feel like, wherever you are, you're Hispanic, you're from Europe. I think that with social media, everybody connects and everybody becomes one. And I think it's very important that we all fit into this world.
And before we continue with this wonderful episode, let me take this opportunity to remind you that this is the Little Radio Show. You can find us every Thursday at 2 p.m. on hmsnetradio.org. And our show archives and a link to our iTunes and Stitcher channels are available on thelittleradioshow.com. So these are just wonderful clips, and honestly, the less than 1 minute each doesn't do justice to the amount of energy in the rooms and the amount of enthusiasm. And let's be honest, we're all little fangirls and fanboys when it comes to these events.
I love the message Lele Pons has to give, that we are very much connected to the social worlds and through social media. And I think what she did when she mentioned that even if you're in Europe or if you're in Latin America, wherever you are, we are very well connected, and I think that speaks volumes to us Hispanics who love to be well connected with each other.
And I think that's also very telling of the community that was there, because a lot of us that were there are entrepreneurs, and we're there. And we like to call
ourselves entrepreneurs, whether we think we that's a different story.
But we know
but there was a lot.
But we know each other, and we know a lot of the community through social media, because social media has made it possible for us to build these online communities and to know each other. And then when we go to these events, we actually get a chance to meet people in person, and it's just kind of what she's saying is part of being a part of that global community.
So I have to ask, while we're on this subject, Juan, what was your favorite part of Hispanicize?
Before we get to that, just a minute. If you're not familiar with Lele Pons and the type of stuff that she does, most people, when they think of influencers online, their only experience is beauty bloggers and fashion bloggers and people who's focusing on themselves. Lele Pons is part of this new crop of online video bloggers who actually create storylines, who, they'll write out a script, they get some people in, they do skits, they do entertainment, they're funny, it's entertainment. Mm-hmm. So she does a lot of watching her stuff is very much like if you were watching the comedy show, the comedy showcase or comedy channel. And a lot of the best Viners, a lot of the best video bloggers, short film. Yes. What they do is this kind of thing. They do this kind of skit kind of thing, even if they're doing something for a brand. So Maya Murillo and David Flores and Juan James and Lele Pons, they all have this kind of comedy, really great comedy, kind of silly, out there kind of thing.
And when you think about it, 6 seconds, you think 6 second video, but I mean, it takes a lot of skill to be able to do that and to package that in such a small amount of time, and they do it very well.
Yes.
All of them do.
So I just wanted to point that out, because that's something that if our audience, if you're not aware of who these people are and you're not aware of their work, then you may not be getting that. And of course, we will be providing links to some of the people that we're talking about in our show notes. You were asking.
I was asking because there was so much going on, and I want to ask you too, Sandra. As what were your favorite moments or parts or days, or was it was it the Tecla Awards? Was it the Prudential Latino Vader lunches?
I have to say that my favorite thing of the whole event was Lizzie Velasquez, and I have to say that because I think she has such an important and powerful story, and that she's from Texas, and the fact that she was able to go to this national platform where all these Latinos were there, and that
her story. Her story started on a national platform on YouTube. She was pushed into it.
I know, but what I'm saying is
she made
that
positive of it.
For her to go to a national event like this, where it was nothing but Latinos who were, as soon as, I think a lot of people didn't know who she was. So the fact that she was there and she was able to explain who she was and talk about her story, that everybody is so motivated now to really support her and help get her story out there. So I think that was my favorite part. Just seeing somebody from Texas who has such an important story to tell have that platform was my favorite part.
Awesome. And Sandra?
I don't know that I have a favorite part. I walked away with a lot of great information from Hispanicize, which is I normally do. And of course, there's a thing about the importance of video, which I know I say that I understand, but since I haven't gotten started on it, I must not be getting the message. What I really loved about this year was how many podcasting sessions there were. Podcasting, as I said in sandrasays.com, is hot, hot, hot. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are people, there are big names in blogging who are starting their own podcasts. There are a lot of people who have already started their podcast. There are people who are doing stuff on Blab and on Periscope is video podcasting instead of just doing audio, that kind of stuff. That was really good to see. The other thing that was very interesting is how the focus is shifting past millennials to Generation Z. And so there were a lot of sessions this year, and actually I've seen a lot of articles in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Houston Business Journal and some other places about how some of this focus is shifting past the millennials to Generation Z because they're on the up and coming. And there are some who are already being integrated in with their parents. It's the family business. Mm-hmm. But there are actually channels that, as I mentioned, are being created specifically so these kids have a place to share things safely.
That's awesome.
And they actually had a panel on Generation Z there.
With Zers on there.
Actual Zers on there. That was pretty cool. I caught part of it, and I thought it was an interesting conversation. But my favorite part was when they did the live demo of the YouNow.
That was pretty cool.
I've known about YouNow for a couple of months now because I love YouTubers. And I love Spanish-speaking YouTubers. There's a couple of YouTubers that are Mexican.
We still love you too.
Okay. So they're Mexican and they live in Japan, and they started using this platform so they can talk to the Latino community, the Latino American community, on this side of the ocean. And they liked the now moment. Yeah. It's basically YouNow. But I love the live demo. I love that platform is coming out where we're moving past the video where you can edit and so forth and so on, like these other platforms like Instagram and
Raw
Vine.
and unfiltered.
Yes.
And completely real.
Yes. Well, it's your actual self that comes through.
And that's one of the reasons why Periscope is so popular. That's one of the reasons why Snapchat is so popular, is because you don't have the opportunity to edit stuff and load it. You've got to film it live.
Then, there, and now. So on YouNow, you can actually video call people while they're live. And it's a platform and have a conversation. And this platform, I think, is turning heads. It's a new way, and it's just better things to come. So that was my absolute favorite moment of Hispanicize. But including all of that, there was a lot more geared. So if you were there for the expo there was, okay, so you walked around in Hispanicize, and at this point, there was like people from all sorts of markets just there. They were kind of, you're just rubbing shoulders and elbows with everyone. And I thought that was amazing. There's not many conferences or events, quote unquote. I'm sorry, Manny, if you're listening to this, that you can actually do that. So I think from every industry, they must have sent at least one market person, one PR person to Hispanicize. Do you agree? Like it was tenfold of influencers and I don't know. It excited me very much.
The reality is one of the reasons I love this, I love going to Hispanicize is it's very much my tribe. Seriously.
Oh, you did mention that. You did mention that.
It is very much my tribe. I'm, at this point, it's going to see old friends or people that I've been connected to online.
Isn't that funny? We go all the way to Miami to see our own Texas friends. I thought that was hilarious.
It's there and we get a chance. But some of my favorite moments at Hispanicize were the moments in between when we got to sit down with real people and actually start discussing tips and recommendations and how's it going, and this is working for me, and I suggest that you change this, and going on and talking with people who are way more successful than I am, and having them actually give me their time, and give me that one-on-one kind of attention that you would otherwise not be able to get.
And we sat down and talked and had these conversations.
And there aren't very many, and I'm going to say the C word, conferences, where that's a possibility. Yeah. There's actually, even if it's supposed to be set up that way, I've always found that the blogging and the social media community, for the most part, tends to be populated by people with very generous spirits.
Yes.
And that is further amplified when you talk about the Latino community. I can't really speak to more than what I know. I've had people who have, sit down and given me what would probably cost me thousands of dollars of coaching for free.
You're right. There was a moment when we were at the Dime Summit, which happens the day before Hispanicize. So Monday and the rest of the week was Hispanicize. At the Dime Summit, we had the opportunity to sit down with some very good friends, Lorraine Ladish from Viva 50 and Kathy Caño Murillo from Crafty Chica. And I loved hearing their passion about, and here's the thing that completely motivated me most, is that they were so willing to tell me their strategies. I love brand strategy. If you know me, you know I love brand strategy. And to hear them tell me what worked and didn't work through their strategies, I was like, I'm sitting like at CEO like tables with these ladies who just kind of open about it.
And if you want to hear, and if you want to experience this for yourself rather than just hearing us rant and rave, Hispanicize dates for April have already been announced for next year, and they're April 4th through the 7th of 2017. And so, before we leave this episode, we want to leave you with a clip of Manny Ruiz, who's the founder of Hispanicize, kind of talking about the mission of Hispanicize, or the purpose of it this year.
I want you to leave with something this year. We are bringing this event together under the theme of power and unity. But it's not just something that we're going to be talking about. We're going to put our leaders, our Latino leaders, on the spot nationwide. And we will not leave Hispanicize without showing that there are real ideas to bring us together and make us be respected, because our dignity matters.
I think that's such a great statement, especially in a year like this year where it's an election year and Latinos are having such an important role. So for me, that really kind of sums up what Hispanicize was all about this year. So
if you're interested in Hispanicize, we want to see you there next year. And we actually have some recaps on our sites. Do you want to go ahead and mention them?
On my sandrasays.com website, I do a recap about marketing and communication trends that I saw off of there. And I know that y'all have a wonderful video recap on juanofwords.com.
Yeah. And if you go to juanofwords.com, you'll find our recap, which has not only the video, the clips that we were able to film while we were there, but also the full presentation of our panel on Texas Latinos.
Yeah, that's all thanks to me. Thank you very much.
I don't think I want to share that one. And thank you for joining us this week. I have a question for you. Will you take a moment and let us know if you enjoy the podcast? What do you like about it? What are we doing well, and what can we improve? Please send us a comment on Facebook or Twitter and tag us. We always appreciate feedback from our listeners. You can find links to all of our social channels on thelittlradioshow.com.